Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Judging Nerd Culture. I'm Ollie.
And I'm Jess.
And today we're talking about The Midnight Club, which is essentially like scary stories we tell in the dark, but with cancer. So that and what's the one where they have cancer and they die and they're in love?
Fault in Our Stars.
That's the one. It's just those two movies kind of fused together.
Yeah.
So.
Yes.
Quick breakdown of what happened in the movie, right? The plot, the overview.
Sure, yeah.
Ilanka, model student. You know, her life is set on track, right? Cancer. He's still like 18 years old, just a child, and she has like a year to live. She has almost no time left. And instead of pursuing all these treatments, she decides to go into teen hospice care, which has to be one of the most depressing things ever said. To kind of, live out her end days in some sort of good experience. But things turn a bit spooky as she finds that she's seeing ghosts and specters and all sorts of weird little things. And there seems to be an involvement of some sort of murder cult, and you find out that she wasn't even looking to die. She found out someone had gone there and healed themselves magically. So they decided to give it a try. And generally, the majority of the plot, not surrounding her directly, is just about her meeting the rest of the kids in this facility, learning more about them and their stories, and waiting for them to die.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. I know after like the second episode, I knew who my favorite character was. And I think we had the same favorite character.
Yeah. I think so.
I can't imagine anyone didn't love this guy. He was fucking great. But yeah, the characters were all honestly pretty fun, and they all made a lot of sense. Extremely annoying almost at all times. Yes. But they are teenagers who are dying, so like it made complete sense, you know? Everyone was angsty and sad. It was made perfect sense. So that's its own thing. You just want to jump into rating it, or do you want to?
We can talk about it a little bit. Midnight Club is by Mike Flanagan. So he's the same guy who created Midnight Mass and the whole Flaniverse is what it's called, apparently.
Horrible name. Their mascot should be like a flannel shirt with a face. The Flaniverse.
But yeah, it's also Haunting of Bly Manor, Haunting of Hill House, I believe, and then he's coming out with his own version of the Fall of the House of Usher. It's a classic.
There's only one Usher in my mind. Okay.
Yeah, it's actually about him.
Documentary.
Yes, but it's so program creator is Mike Flanagan, but it's written by him and also Leah. She is a creator on Midnight Club and The Magicians, which is interesting.
Whoa! She wrote The Magicians?
I believe so. She was one of the writers, it looks like.
Because that show, while fun, was kind of garbage. But the characters were written very, very fun. All except one.
Well, hey.
Yeah, two.
There, when I don't know a lot about TV shows, but I feel like when you're writing something, there's a lot of people involved that tell you what you can and cannot do.
But no, like that sounded bad, but I honestly meant it as like sort of a positive because like in Magicians, everyone had a very strong characterization, just like in the show. Like I'm not sure if that's her contribution, but if it is, it makes sense.
Yeah.
All the characters in both of these seem to have strong characterization pretty quickly too.
Yeah. You get a real good feel of what each character, like what their personality is like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, let you know immediately if you're gonna like them or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The only exception I would say is Alanka in this show, because like she started off great and then just, I mean,
it got kind of worse and worse.
Yeah, admittedly, like, she was trying not to die, and I get it, but like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah. When I was thinking about what we were going to talk about, I thought about Alanka and how, even though she's so annoying and so full of herself, and like just kind of the worst.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to realize it's kind of realistic.
Yeah.
Because she is a teenager who does think she's very, very smart. And she prides herself in being very smart and mature and stuff. Like, many times she tells people, I'm not stupid. Because, like, she's like, I'm not a child, sort of thing. Mm-hmm. Which a lot of teenagers do. But, you know, I get it. We were all teenagers once.
We were all stupid.
We don't like being talked down to. Nobody really does. So, like, it's realistic. She's dying, a teenager, but it's just so hard to get through sometimes with her.
I think it's because we see her in comparison to so many of the other characters who have gone through like their own grieving and have chosen to just be better than her, while like she's still fighting for this thing, for this, you know, miracle. So it definitely makes her come off as this real negative force, as she's almost looking down on all the other characters who you love immediately.
Yeah. Because
they don't think that they can survive, which they can't. They have cancer.
Terminal diseases.
Yes.
And just to skip forward a little bit, when the miracle does work, she is convinced, because like they all do this little ritual thing. Mm-hmm. She is convinced that it is her that has been healed. She is convinced it's her. She hasn't been told anything by the doctors. And so she tells all of these people that she's been friends with for, I don't know, these few months. And she just says, hey, all my terminally ill friends, I'm healed. The ritual worked. And it's not her. And when it's not her, she freaks out and cries and gets mad and takes it out on people. And I just don't like it. But yeah. I've never, been terminally ill, so I don't know how that feels.
Yeah. It's rough to, like, watch her just kind of shit on everybody. It's difficult. And, like, I don't think it's even, like, an intentional thing, because she does care about pretty much everyone. Like, she doesn't dislike anyone. But it's just, she's so much the main character of her own story that she doesn't understand, and so are they. It's rough.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing with, like, being kind of stupid, which we all were. Let's be honest. We've all been stupid, extremely, versus having knowledge. She was very knowledgeable. She knew a lot of things. Very stupid. Because she's a kid. Like, stupidity, you overcome that as you experience things and go, I won't repeat this action. I won't do this thing. I know when I say things like this, people hurt. Versus knowledge is, accumulating these things, these concepts. It's very different. And it's okay to be stupid. We all are. Always.
Sometimes it's kind of fun to be stupid. But
you have to be tactful.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's I don't love the character, but I definitely understand her at the very least, which is impressive. Like, it's hard to dislike anyone in this, like, really dislike. Even the bad guy, who maybe we'll talk about in a minute, but like, she, after everything, like, clearly was manipulated and became obsessed with this thing, and it's like, well, you kind of suck, but like,
you were indoctrinated into some sort of cult.
Yeah, like, how do you blame someone for that after experiencing what they experienced? Like, it's wild.
Yeah.
I know that this technically isn't part of the Flaniverse or whatever, but it definitely gives off a very similar feel of, like, everything's normal except that one thing. You know?
Yeah.
Like with the Haunting of Hill whatever's place movies or TV shows or whatever. Everything's normal except this place just happens to be haunted and things get a little fuckety. With Midnight Mass, everything's normal except this one vampire.
Except for this one island.
Yeah.
He's really getting messed up.
Like everything in his stuff is always just like mostly normal to the point that when something, even if it's small, is out of the ordinary, it feels like a big deal. And you know, they played with that a lot with this show, with like the spooky specters and all this stuff, and talking about potential miracle cures, to the point where they deliberately made it difficult to decide and parse out which things are actual magic and which things are just, you know, hallucinations and drug induced hoo-ha. It kept you wondering.
Mm-hmm.
That was nice. I enjoyed it.
Yes. Do you have a favorite character?
If we're not counting the boy.
The boy?
The boy?
What boy? All characters are valid. Why are we not including one of the boys?
Well, because Amesh is the best character, hands down. Like, I can't imagine anyone picking someone who isn't Amesh to be their favorite character.
I don't know. There's a lot of people out there who probably pick, like, Kevin.
Kevin's okay.
He is basically just a kid from Fault in Our Stars.
Yeah, and he told a great story, but, like, he's just okay.
I do like Kevin, because he does have... I feel like a lot of people can relate to his story, probably. You know, being the older sibling and then having, you know, this terminal illness, and then your parents kind of putting all that was on you onto your younger siblings, sort of. Because, like, his mom, he was this like, big track star in high school. He wanted to, you know, to do big things. He can't now. Can't really run very well now. Yep. And so, you know, they come to visit, and his mom is like, "Oh, your little brother, he's going to be joining track, and he's going to be doing this and that." And Kevin's just like, "Okay, but does he want to do that?" And instead of the little brother answering, the mom answers. And she's like, "Yes, of course he wants to do it." And he just tells his little brother that, like, his legacy, his life, it's on its way out. He's dying. So his little brother needs to just make his own. Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's relatable to a lot of people.
Oh, for sure. I think, even without considering the terminal aspect of it, just the idea that as an older sibling, you know, you experience whatever you're experiencing, and then your family, because of who you are, decide to, you know, enforce this expectation upon the rest of your family. Like, well, I'm sorry, but also, like, I don't, like, it's a difficult thing. And I think, honestly, that scene was the scene where I first thought, oh, Kevin, okay.
Yeah, I think it was one of the first scenes where I was like, okay, I think I really like Kevin. He's really cool. Yeah. Because when you first meet him, it's just, you know, the average white boy love interest. His name's Kevin. His
hair parts down the middle. It's what it is.
Well, it is in the 90s. It is set in the 90s. But, yeah, I think my favorite characters are probably Amesh and the girl who lies all the time. Sherry. So Amesh and Sherry
pretty great.
are pretty darn great. Mm-hmm. Sherry doesn't have, like, the saddest story ever. But she's just so wholesome and kind and nice. And, well, I don't know about wholesome, but she's just very nice. And then I feel like her and Spencer probably flip-flop for me, just because he is also pretty great.
He's a lot of fun. I really liked Natsuki's whole storyline.
Who? Natsuki?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said Suki. And I was like, we're not talking about True Blood here. what are you? Who's Suki? Oh, yeah. Natsuki. Yeah, she's pretty cool.
Yeah, also, like, I think her story was one of my favorite ones, just because it was very just very emotional, just beginning to end. And it didn't take long to understand what the story was.
So we've kind of said who our favorite characters are and what this is about. We didn't explain Midnight Club at all.
Right.
Midnight Club is so at this hospice for these kids. That this place is a way for teenagers to go out the way they want to. Like without a bunch of chemo or a bunch of people stressing them out or whatever. This nice, peaceful, beautiful mansion on this like hilltop. Which Flanagan, I feel like, really likes houses on hilltops.
I mean, wouldn't you, though? Beautiful scenery, wonderful house. This is what it is.
But they all meet at midnight in the library to drink and tell scary stories. But each of them kind of tells, like, it's a scary story, but it's based off of their own life or their feelings.
Mm-hmm. Which is really funny, because in the first episode, they talk about just how gauche it is to make a story about yourself, but that's all they ever do.
Yeah, I mean, you write what you know.
I suppose. Okay, favorite story.
Mm-hmm.
What was yours?
Oh man, I think my favorite story. I did like Natsuki's, but weirdly enough, I really dug Kevin's.
I think Kevin's was the most impressive in sort of the layers of it all.
Mm-hmm. Also, I feel like it was the most spooky.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's definitely true. All of it was definitely the scariest one, which is the point. It was supposed to be scary stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, his had the most layers to it, because every story clearly has some sort of, not only just allegory for like who they are and their experiences, the things they've experienced, but also, their dreams, their wishes, the things they don't think they'll get to experience. They try to like work these in, and it's honestly very well done. Incredible writing. But I think his was the one that confused me the most in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a lot going on, and I had to really like kind of wrestle with what it all was supposed to mean, and it worked out very well. I think Natsuki's was the opposite. It was the least like, what is this about? It was pretty clear, but it was still just very emotional.
I think hers was pretty easy to understand.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
I thought you said that was the least easy to understand.
No, did I say that? That's my bad. No, I said it's the opposite of Kevin's, whereas it was the easiest to understand.
Okay.
It was definitely the easiest one to kind of pick up. Aside from maybe the Christian girls, who wasn't really much of a story, more of a
weird apology.
Yeah.
And honestly, the climax of that story was
weird.
Freaking weird. But I mean, it is what it is. It worked out that they liked the story for some reason.
Yeah. I love that they mentioned that her stories always end up with angel porn.
Mm-hmm.
Just angels showing up, saving the day. And they all complain about this, but like 30% of them all include angels.
Which ones?
Amesh's does. Natsuki's does. Like her.
Amesh involves, I think, aliens.
Yeah, but later on he explains. He's like, it might have been angels. Like they bring it. They mention it that it just that she missed it because he was telling his little story. Mm-hmm. Who else was it? I don't recall right now. But yeah, I don't know. It just felt kind of funny that they complained about it, but then it was just angels.
I think it's just because she gets really intense about it.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, everyone knows how intense some people can get about, angels.
Okay.
So, do you want to do the breakdown?
Sure.
All right. So, vibe, just generally how we felt about it. Personally, I'd give it like a solid 8. Like, I thought it was going to be spookier, and that was a little bit of a meh. Mm-hmm. But the general emotional ride that it takes you through is very very impactful. I enjoyed my watching of it.
Yeah, I think I'd give it an 8 as well, just because it wasn't as spooky as I thought it was going to be. Like, this one isn't a part of the Flaniverse, and it's a longer series that he's co-writing with somebody. So it makes sense, you know, and it's about a bunch of teenagers, and so it's going to be a little more, I guess a little tamer, but with heavy on like the messages and stuff, I guess. But in some parts it was, I guess I don't know. I just wished it was a little spookier.
So 8, you said? Or,
yeah.
Okay. Now the technical aspect, the writing, the acting, just, you know, the cinematography, anything that involves a lot of skill. The skill that went into it. What do you think? I'm going close to. I'm thinking like a 7 because the acting and the writing were great, but I felt like a lot of the cinematography, a lot of the visuals were kind of boring. Like, it was a beautiful place and whatnot, but she's seeing ghosts, and now she's in a sepia tone, older version of the mansion. I don't know. It was just a little
Lackluster.
Yeah, a little bland. But you know, the writing and the acting did make up for it, in my opinion. So I think skill wise, definitely like a 7 for me.
I'm still gonna give it an 8. I do agree that some of the cinematography was a little boring, but I think some of the spookiness was done really well with certain sounds and lighting, and the writing was really good. And for these people, these kids acting, you know, I don't know the ages of all of them, but some of them do seem pretty young, and then some seem like they might be in their 20s. I'm not sure. But they, you know, for being actors that we haven't really seen a lot of, or at least I haven't.
Yeah, they didn't
I
pull
think
out.
they did a really good job.
Yeah, they didn't even pull in like the Stranger Things cast. They didn't go for like the traditional young ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, for people who I've never heard of, they did a great job. And the last one is like messaging and whatnot, which is generally just like the symbolism they had, the metaphors and all that, and how well they were able to drive that through narratively and through everything else. And I would say this is probably a 9. Like, this is probably their best one. They meant to say things, and they said those fucking things. They sure did. The only thing that the reason it's a 9 for me, not like a 10 or something, is because it felt like they had built up some things. Like, there was some stuff getting kind of muddled up between the need for it to be almost like trying to add spookiness to it versus just like letting that be part of whatever's going on. Like, it felt like there was things going on that just didn't gel as well. But everything in the long run did still have some sort of style and theme. And admittedly, it did end in a way that's clear it's going to have a season 2. So maybe some of the stuff that was unresolved, like the ghosts and whatnot, will be dealt with, and it'll have more of a satisfying meaning and truth behind it all.
Yeah. For message, I'll give it. I think I'll give it another 8.
All right.
Because though I think the messaging in like Midnight Mass is a lot better. I don't know. I just also am biased because I love that show. But with Midnight Club, I think the messages were very clear, like you said, for a lot of the characters. A couple of them, it might have been, we might have had to think about it for a little bit, but it was really cool, really good, really, really well written. It's definitely, for high schoolers who are going to watch it, they're going to relate with it, and maybe some adults will too. But I do feel like it is advertised more towards younger people. So if you prefer things a little more complex or a little more thoughtful, a little more deep, you might watch something else. You're not going to watch this for any, deep study of what it truly means, any deep philosophy or anything. But, yeah, I'll give it an 8.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I think because it focuses on teenagers and a youth group in general, I think a lot of it has a lot less to do with like this sense of like existentialism and like whatever we think about. The older we get, the closer we get to not feeling like who we were supposed to be, who our dream selves were meant to be, and coming to grips with that sort of thing. That seems to be a lot of messaging in shows and movies dedicated to older individuals. But this has more of a how to parse out the feelings of like, I'm never going to get the chance to do these things. My opportunities are taken from me, and that is, I feel like, a thing that even teenagers who aren't going through these circumstances feel a lot of, especially nowadays, where it's like just looking at like the economy or whatever else is like, yeah, they don't have the same opportunities that, well, not us, we didn't have fucking shit, but the same opportunities that the generations before had. It seems like that's more than anything the feeling that this show gives off to me, which is a very juvenile thing, but not like in a negative way. It's just that is how you experience it from a juvenile sense. Like the younger it is, the more likely you are to experience that emotion. Yeah. But with our ratings, we have a combined score of 8. Solid score. Wonderful show. I don't really have much else to say.
Yeah, I don't know. Then that's the end.